for an older engine like this that has not been started in 9 years potentially, there's a lot of things you can do to kind of mitigate the risk basically of messing up the engine. Some of those different steps I'm gonna take, some of them I'm not. For example, I'm not gonna pull the plugs and check those out. Of course, I'm gonna check the oil. I'll check the tranny fluid, although it really doesn't matter if we're just starting it up in park. I'll check the radiator, but that probably doesn't matter much. I'll add some water if there isn't any, or antifreeze for this, not matter, because we're in a cold area. Now, other than that, I charged the battery on our trickle charger. We've got 12.6 volts. I'm gonna make sure that the engine does spin over. I'm gonna make sure it's not seized. I'll just put a breaker bar on the front bolt of the crankshaft, and I'll turn it over to make sure it rotates. Once or twice, I'll go through the engine. If it does, then the next step, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the fuel lines so that the engine doesn't suck anything up from the tank. I don't know if there is anything in there. I don't know if the gas gauge is accurate, but if it is, it's 8, 9 years old, and I don't wanna suck all that varnished up fuel through the system. So I'll disconnect the send line from the tank, and then I'm gonna leave that open, honestly, at this point. And, or depending on I'll disconnect the line from the tank so it's not sucking anything in there. And I may run it through a fresh tank, you know, set up a little water bottle or like a bucket with fresh gasoline and have that for the send line to the carb. But the first thing I'll do is just dump some down the carb, and I'll mix up a little bit of 2-stroke oil with gasoline, just so that I don't pour starting fluid or fresh gas right down the cylinders when nothing has been lubricated in a very long time. You could also pull off the valve covers and pour a bunch of oil, Marvel Mystery Oil or actual oil, on the top of the valve train, just so it's not starting up dry. I may or may not get into all that. The main reason why I'm not planning on doing a lot of this stuff is that the guy I bought it from told me he tried to start it probably a month ago at this point now, maybe a month or two, and he wasn't successful. He didn't get it to start or run or fire, but I know he's been cranking on it for a little bit, so at this point the engine's probably already spun over a number of times. So not gonna make a whole lot of difference, or not a whole lot of point for me to pull the valve covers off and pour oil on everything. We'll just probably check the oil, check the levels, and then make sure it does move over and it's not seized, and then we'll start cranking on it and see if we get any spark or fuel or any of that stuff. So that's gonna be our first step. It's got fresh coolant. Good to go on that. The oil level was good. All I'm doing right now, if you can hear me, is I'm gonna add a fuel filter in the send line from the tank so I can leave that attached, just to make sure I don't send any bad stuff to the carb. Might be kind of hard to see, but all I've done is I added a inline fuel filter with a clear plastic sight glass. This is in between the send line from the fuel tank. It's right there, and then it hits the filter, and then it goes down into the fuel pump. So this is all metal line that comes from the fuel pump to the carb, so I couldn't slip anything in there. This is basically just in between the tank and the pump. That way I can get any sort of varnish or crap or whatever might come up from the tank. I don't really know. I don't know if it's totally empty either. There was fuel in the lines when I pulled them, but we'll see what comes through there. So now I just need to disconnect this pulley because someone took the fan off, and now this is completely loose here, so it's obviously going to fly off. So we'll have nothing to the alternator, nothing to the water pump, but that'll be fine. I'm just going to loosen this guy up, push the alternator over. It's probably that bolt and that bolt. I can get the belt off, I'll pull this pulley off, and then we're ready to squirt some of that 2-stroke and gas down the carburetor and try to turn the thing over. I've already verified that the engine does move over by hand. It's a bolt on the crank right down there, and it spins over. I have squirted some of my 2-stroke and gas, probably a little bit too much 2-stroke by how blue it is. I squirted a bit of that down the carburetor, and I've got my girlfriend in the car, batteries hooked up, the water pump belt and alternator is disconnected, so we're going to try to bump it over with the starter right now. Give it a shot. You turn the key, Hunter. That was your cue. Stop. Ooh. I do not. The engine was not turning over at all. Let's look at the starter. It sounded weird. And we're rolling. We're going to dump a little bit of this stuff down there. Darn it, I lost the stuff. I found the stuff. Okay, hit it. Not bad, not bad. Let's get a little more. Not yet, don't hit it. Okay, hit it. All right, go again. Now go.
Do we have gas pedal when it starts?
Yeah, a little bit though. So I don't know if the fuel works. Headlights are still on, but I don't need those. Amperage, yeah, it's not going to be charging because whatever, 10, whatever. Oh, we don't have a low pressure gauge actually, so. But it sounds like it has a low pressure. So it died for some reason. Overall, sounds really good though, and it idled really well. So let me stay right there for a sec. I'm going to show the people a couple things. That was pretty good. We don't have an oil pressure gauge on the dash, so we can't really tell. But the fuel line, little fuel filter that I threw in line there, so I can get her to focus. It looks okay. It filled up with fuel. It was running off of that. Now I did wedge that in there in a real precarious way. So it may be kinked up there. I thought it would be straight enough to at least idle. I don't know if it would rev much, but I thought it'd be straight enough to idle. It looks okay. It doesn't look terrible, to be perfectly honest. So whatever's in the tank, it may not be too bad. I don't know completely what's in there. Oh, we probably have a good fuel leak up here. If you can see all that moisture, it's probably coming from right in there. So I'll pick around at this a little bit longer and see what I can find out. I know this actually should not be attached to there. Let me see if I can figure out where this fuel leak is coming from down in there. But that was pretty good. The distributor in the beginning, we weren't getting spark. The distributor was pretty loose. I don't really know exactly why. The cap was anyways. I just kind of pushed one of those screws back there down and then it tightened itself down. So let's keep playing with it, see if we can get it to idle a little longer.